Hey guys, this is Matt Lamarca from FantasyLabs. MLB opening day just around the corner, so I wanted to take some time, run through a brief intro video here on the MLB models here at FantasyLabs, some of the basics, how to use them, what's included in them, using the single lineup tool, the multi-lineup tool, the stacking tool. So it's a lot of information, but I think we can help put you in the right direction if you're a new user or an old user who just wants to brush up. So here is the main screen for the models. There's no baseball going on right now, obviously, so I have it navigated to a historical date, September 22nd of last year. All the previous slates are going to be included. Just pick the date that you want to look at. Obviously, if you're looking for the current date, that will be the default when you log in once the regular season has started. You're also going to have this drop down here that's going to let you navigate between the specific slates. So you've got the 12:35 early slate on September 22nd, but I'm going to take a peek here at the 10-game main slate starting at 7:05 p.m. You also can choose between our different models. Right now, I am in the cash game model. We also have a few different pro models that you can choose from. And of course, you can build your own models. That's something I will get into you guys in a later video, a little bit more advanced there. But essentially how the models are going to work, all of the different projections are going to be the same within each model. It's just this rating here that is going to depend on which model that you are using. Certain models are going to weigh certain things heavier. So for this cash game model, you can see that we're placing a premium on the Vegas score, the projected plus minus percentage, the median projection, the bargain rating. Pretty simple, pretty bare bones. Which guys are going to be the best plays for us on a night-to-night basis. You also have these tabs up here. You can switch between DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, the DraftKings single game format, which would be the showdown format, and all the different showdowns are again going to be available in that drop down. Same goes for FanDuel. All of their single games are available. The DraftKings tiers, if you play that format, and Super Draft. So for now, I'm going to stick on DraftKings and just walk you through now the different pieces of information that are included within each actual model. So the first thing you'll see here is the rating. Again, that's determined by which factors are being rated, and the best players will be at the top depending on which rating system you're using. You've got the player name. If you click on the player name, it will bring up a player card. It's going to have a recent game log for the player, any relevant news, any trends that they're fitting. And again, I can get into the trends tool with you guys in another video. One of my favorite tools here at FantasyLabs, probably one of the most underappreciated tools as well. You've also got salary here, and all these columns are sortable. So if you want to look at the most expensive hitters on the slate, you can just do that. Position, again, if you want to see all of the first basemen, you can also navigate the positions up here, but if you wanted to sort them, you can. Batting order, so if you only want to look at the leadoff hitters, they're all going to come up here as ones. Obviously, the nines are kind of the guys we want to avoid in daily fantasy unless we're building a game stack, but they are there if you want to look at them. Team as well is sortable. Again, opposing pitcher and opposing team. That's all kind of straightforward. Now we can get into the good stuff here. These are the projections. So median projection is what you can expect the batter to do on most nights. Ceiling is sort of the high range. Floor would be the low range. Projected plus minus is a proprietary metric we have here at FantasyLabs. Basically, it takes how many points we are projecting the player for, and it subtracts how many points the player is implied for based on their salary. So here, Mookie Betts, we have him projected for the most points. He's 6,000. A 6K player is roughly expected to score 9.53 DraftKings points at that salary. We have him projected for 10.79, so his plus minus is going to check in at plus 1.26. The best plus minus are the guys we are projecting to be the best values on the slate. And then conversely, the worst plus minuses are the guys we are expecting to be the worst values. So you can see Brandon Crawford here is 5,900. We're only projecting him for 6.5 points. He's going to check in as one of the worst plays on the slate. Points per salary is very similar to the projected plus minus, but it's not going to place the same premium on salary. So it's just going to be how many points are you projected for and what's your price tag. You'll see that lower priced players will fare better in this metric. That's not really taking into account the fact that lower priced players, even though, yes, they are giving us 3.3 points per salary on our projection, that's not really still very many points. We want our 2K players to score more than that. So they might not grade out as well in projected plus minus. Again, we have projected ownership here. You can see which players we're projecting to be the highest owned on this slate. All the way down. Again, it's going to go down through the lower owned players as well. Actual points is if you're looking at the historical slates like I'm doing right now. So this is how many points each of these players actually did score on this September 22nd slate. So if you want to backtest your model, this is a great way to do it. You can see Gavin Lux here we have as the highest rated player, projected for 8 points right now. He scored 9, so pretty close there. Stat splits is really where you're going to find a lot of the information about how the certain hitters fare against the pitcher that they're facing. So this is all splits adjusted, meaning that for Gavin Lux here, who is a left-handed batter, he is facing German Marquez, who is a right-handed pitcher. So this right here, WOBA, is his weighted on base average against right-handed pitchers, and this would be his isolated power against right-handed pitchers. These columns here are the differences. So Gavin Lux, you can see, is nearly 0.136 better in terms of WOBA against right-handed pitchers than he would be against left-handed pitchers. Conversely, a guy like Luke Voigt, who is red, he is actually a right-handed batter who fares better against right-handed pitchers than left-handers. He's facing a left-hander here, but not on the right side of his splits per this metric. Slugging percentage, similar to isolated power. Strikeouts per at-bat, pretty self-explanatory there. Rest is just how many games or how many days since the player has been in the lineup. Pro trends here. Again, I will get into the trends tool later, but this is all going to be empty, unfortunately, on the historical slates. But it'll show things that each batter is matching that have historically provided value. My trends, if you have any of your own trends built in, it will show if they are matching on this column. We also have umpire information. Certain umpires are better for hitters. Certain umpires are better for pitchers. That's all going to be reflected here. Jerry Meals historically has been a good hitter for batters. So you see the Dodgers guys here getting a bump. Shane Livensparger apparently not so good for batters. So the Atlanta guys getting a slight ding in that department. Bargain rating here is another really cool FantasyLabs metric. Basically, it compares your price on DraftKings to your price on FanDuel. And if you are checking in significantly cheaper on one of those sites, you are going to grade out with a superior bargain rating. So Gavin Lux here, you can see he's 2,800 on DraftKings. If we go over to FanDuel, Gavin Lux is 3,300. So he has a 4% bargain rating on FanDuel, but a 97% bargain rating on DraftKings. So if you're playing on multiple sites, this is a great way of sort of identifying which sites you want to use for which player. Park factor, again, this is adjusted by handedness, and it's going to tell you how friendly the park is for hitters of that handedness. So the Dodgers here are playing at Coors. Coors is going to be a perfect 100 for every batter of every handedness. Doesn't matter if you're a lefty, a righty. You play at Coors, you get a perfect 100 park factor. Moving down the list, you can see the Yankees batters here. They are playing at home. Left-handed batters at Yankee Stadium check in with the next highest park factor. Going down again, you can see that left-handed batters in Milwaukee get the next highest park factor at 64. This next section here is going to be all your Vegas data, how many runs your team is implied for. So you can see, again, the Dodgers playing at Coors. No surprise, they are implied for the most runs on the slate. This is how many runs your opponent is implied for. This delta is how much it has changed from opening to close. You've got money line odds. You've got the total over-under for the game. And then money line percentage would be how many what percentage of the bets are landing on each specific team. So the Dodgers in this matchup getting 76% of the money line bets. We also track all the weather information. That all gets a rating. Typically, warmer weather is better for hitters. You want wind blowing out. You want, obviously, no precipitation. All things that will affect this weather rating. The higher the number, the better it is for whatever you're looking at, either batters or pitchers. This is going to show all of the fantasy performance numbers for throughout the year, how many points per game each player is averaging, how much their salary has changed from the current time to what it was a year ago, their consistency rating, their upside rating, their dud percentage, and then just the number of games that are being counted. And you can look at more short-term statistics over the past month. That's all going to be tracked as well, the same categories. We have the same information available for pitchers. A lot of it is similar, so I'm not really going to dive into it all again, but you've got the median, ceiling, and floor projection, the projected plus minus, and the points per salary. Projected ownership, implied points, that's all the same as it would be for the hitting. The different stuff here is we have projected pitch counts. That's big. In 2022, you see a lot of openers, a lot of guys who are not going to be expected to go very many innings. So if you want to lean on some safer pitchers, you're going to want to target guys with a higher projected pitch count. Leverage is interesting. That's going to essentially reflect the projected ceiling versus the projected ownership. So if there's a guy who is projecting with a nice ceiling, like let's say German Marquez, we actually give him a decent ceiling projection, but just 2 to 4% ownership. That's going to make him a good leverage play. He didn't actually come through. He had just one fantasy point, but the leverage was there nonetheless. And then this rating is just going to compare quite literally the rank in ceiling projection versus the rank in ownership. So Zach Wheeler, number 1 in ceiling, but also number 1 in ownership. That's going to give him 0 leverage. These opponent stats are, again, splits adjusted, similar to the stats that we looked at for the batters. Strikeouts per at-bat is literally going to look at the projected or confirmed lineup for the opposing team and how often they strike out against pitchers of this handedness. So Merrill Kelly here facing an Atlanta Braves team that was pretty strikeout prone, or at least their lineup was on that day against right-handed pitching. Same thing goes for Woba, what their weighted on base average is against pitchers of that handedness. K prediction here is going to just give you a strikeout prediction for each players. We know that the strikeouts are huge for pitchers in DFS, so you want to target guys with high strikeouts. Again, we have the umps here. We have the Vegas data here. You know, money line, you want big favorites at pitcher. You want guys who are going to keep the opposing team off of the scoreboard. Same thing with weather. And then, of course, the fantasy year and fantasy month statistics. All right, now that we have just a quick, sort of what you can expect to see in each model, let's actually build some lineups. So the first way we're going to do this is just building a single lineup. This is our single lineup optimizer here. You can optimize by a few different ways: points, ceiling, floor, points per salary, plus, minus, etc. Right now, we're just going to say, what is the FantasyLabs models projecting to be the highest scoring lineup on this slate? So if you're optimizing on DraftKings, you have to make some adjustments to the player pool. You have to either lock in 2 players, add exposure, or remove players. I think the easiest way, if you're building one lineup, just scroll down to the bottom and remove the 2 guys that are at the low end of the projections. Then you can optimize it again, and it's going to spit out a lineup. So this is the team that we have projected for the most points on this slate. If you wanted to go plus minus, which again is going to feature our value metric, it might check in with some different players. So yeah, different pitchers and a few different hitters as well. We also have a stacks tool. If you want to incorporate that into your lineup, you can build by as many players out as you want, 3, 4, 5, or 6 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you can only go up to 5, I believe. But yeah, just again, projected points, ceiling, isolated power for hitters. But you can build your stacks out. And if you see one that you like, let's say I want to stack this 1, 3, 4 combination for the Dodgers, just load it in, and it's that easy. You can also, again, if you want to go plus minus, these Dodger stacks are all going to be pretty expensive. Let's say you wanted to just get a little bit of a cheaper stack to build around. You can go by plus minus. Now we're going to get a Yankee stack here who is significantly cheaper at 10.5. And we can, again, just pop that into our lineup. We've also got the MultiLineup tool. And this is really cool here. Optimizer. A lot of different features that you can put in here. Minimum salary cap, maximum salary cap. I'm just going to leave this as is for now, but let's say you wanted to have 0 lineups where you were going to use the full salary cap. You could just knock that down. You could even make it 99.9. So now you won't get any where you're spending the full 50K salary cap. That can help from an ownership perspective. You can choose how many batters are okay versus your opposing pitcher. If you want to completely avoid your pitcher, leave it as 0. And then whichever pitchers show up in your lineups, you won't have any hitters that are facing them popping in there. On smaller slates, you're probably going to need to change this filter, but on a 10-gamer like we're looking at here, totally okay to just have no hitters against your pitchers in your lineup. Maxed ownership percentage per lineup. So if you wanted to cap the ownership at, the aggregate ownership at a certain number, you could do that there. Unique players per lineup. This is simply going to say how many players in each lineup need to be different in order for the lineups to be considered different. If it's only at 1, you could have 2 identical lineups with just 1 difference. You could have one $2,500 outfielder in one and then a different $2,500 outfielder in the other. If you bump it up to 2, then there's going to need to be 2 players that are different in each lineup. Range of outcomes. Again, if you want to just go off the optimals, you would leave it at 0, and then it's going to give you the most optimal lineups possible based off of the projections. If you wanted to build in a little wiggle room, you can, toggle it up, and then it will give you a wider spread of players that go further away from the optimal. It's nice, I think. I like to build in a little bit of wiggle room when I'm using the multi-lineup tool because you don't want to be overexposed to certain teams and such. Max exposure per player. If you want to cap that at 80 or so, you can do it there. You can also do it by position. So let's say you're willing to have 80% max exposure of a pitcher, but you don't want to have 50%, you don't want to have any more than 50% at any of the positions. You could just go ahead and fill those all in like that. And then finally, bounce. How that works is once a player appears in your lineup, if you increase the bounce rating, it's going to then lower the projection on that player so that they don't show up in as many lineups once they're used. And if you ever have any questions about this stuff, there are helpful little question mark icons here. You can click, just hover over those, and it will give you a brief explanation of what you're looking at. You can also, this would be player limits by team. If you say, I want to have at least 3 Dodgers in every lineup, you could set the minimum there. If you say, I don't want any Chicago Cubs, you can drop that down to 0 or any number in between. You can also add stacks with this if you click this add rule here. So you can say, I want 5 players from either the Dodgers, the Phillies, or the Red Sox. You can set the individual exposures for each of those teams as well. So if you were going to build 150 lineups, this would give you, 33% of them with a Dodgers stack, 33% with a Phillies stack, 34% with a Red Sox stack. And again, this will just include players from those teams. If you want them to be true stacks where they're going to be, sequential hitters in order, 1 through 5, etc., as opposed to 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, you need to check this box. And then it will give you all, sequential stacks where you're not skipping any spots in the lineup. You can also add position rules if you want to pair your starting pitcher with a first baseman. You can do that if you want to. You can build in random correlations. So when, let's say, any of Zach Wheeler is in the lineup, we'll also include at least one of... Let's say we want a cheap batter or something in there. I don't know. At least one of Josh Harrison. There are situations where this makes more sense. I'm just kind of doing it randomly now. But let's say if your lineups don't include Zach Wheeler or Chris Sale, who are two of the more expensive players, then we're going to use exactly one of Mookie Betts, right? If we're not paying up for pitching, then we want to get some more expensive hitters into our lineup. So if you have, different correlations in your head that you want to make happen, this would be the spot to do it. Same thing goes for player groups. You can use, again, let's say you want to have at least one a stud pitcher. So, but you don't want to use two. You can go use at most one of Zach Wheeler or Chris Sale. That means that none of your lineups will have both of those guys. That way, if you wanted to, limit the amount of money that you're spending on pitcher, this will force the optimizer to jam in some cheaper starting pitching options along with the studs whenever they are used. All right, and then finally, once you have all that ready to go, you can just apply your settings. And now we are going to generate our lineups here. Let's build out just 100 of them for now. Again, all sorts of different ways you can do it. I'm just going to go by projected points. And let's see what the optimizer spits out. So this will take some time depending on how many lineups you're building. The more lineups you're building, obviously, the longer it's going to take. Asking it to generate 100 is a little bit of a task, so it's going to take just a couple of seconds to go through everything, make sure that all of these lineups are fitting all of the rules that you had previously established. So, again, each one of these teams that we've built should have either a Dodgers stack, and I think it was a Phillies stack or a Braves stack, whatever those three teams we selected were. Actually, one of them was the Red Sox. Anyway, this screen here on the right is going to show you all of the exposures for the batters in the stacks that we built out. So Luke Voit is our highest exposured player right now at 65%. Pitcher-wise, we have 100% Zach Wheeler, 97% Chris Sale. So we ended up getting a lot of the two stud combinations in there. If for some reason you don't like the exposures that came out, let's say we want to cap our exposure to to Wheeler at 80% and our exposure to Sale at 50%, you can just save that and then regenerate your lineups. And now it's going to go through the whole process again, and it is going to try and do a better job of setting to the new parameters that you have established. It's not always possible. Sometimes you can ask the models to do something that it is not capable of doing, and at that point it will stall out and you won't get the full 100 lineups that you're looking for. So right now we got there. We have 80% Wheeler, 50% Sale. It sprinkled in some more of these four players. And on the batter side, again, you can do the same thing. You can toggle in min and max exposure for any players to kind of sort of really hone in your lineups where you like them. Once you have them set, you can tag the lineups. I'll just call them test for now. Add tag, and then save them. And now they are going to show up in your My Lineups tab. All right, that's it for now. I will have some more videos coming out as we get closer to the start of the season. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Matt Lamarca. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And good luck this year. Let's go Mets.